All right, guys, so today I want to talk a little bit about something that a lot of younger agents don't like to do, but it's so important to do, and that is exclusive representation agreements. So a lot of younger agents are afraid to ask for the exclusive representation agreement because they're afraid that the client's going to say no. But the bottom line is, if you're going to put all this time and effort and energy into a client and work with them, then you should at the very least have the same expectation that they're going to work with you, that you're not wasting your time. And, we're one of the few industries that a lot of people will go out and work with the hope, not the expectation, but the hope to make money. And really, if you're running your business like that, you're running it wrong. You should be expecting to work with your client and work and make money, not hoping. So it's kind of like the difference between a investor versus someone who is just hoping for a return. So an investor is actually going to look into it, look into the properties, and look and expect a specific return on the investment that they're making, versus a speculator who's just buying a property and hoping for appreciation and hoping for that return. Playing the market, riding the wave as it goes up. So as an agent, when you're working with a client, you want to expect that return, right? You don't want to hope for that return. And the best way to do that is with an exclusive representation agreement. Of course, after you have qualified the client. And if you look at it, this is nothing that any client of yours should be not used to. They should be used to having to sign these agreements. Maybe not with a commercial real estate agent, but I can tell you right now, if you hire an attorney, no attorney is going to do any legal work and work with you until you sign an agreement with them. Okay? Lenders in the commercial real estate world, they don't work with you until you sign an agreement and you give them a $10,000 deposit, usually $10,000, sometimes a little bit less. But a $10,000 deposit to cover their expenses while they're working with you to get you that loan. Okay? So if other people in the industry are doing this, why aren't you? That's the bottom line. So you want to have that exclusive representation agreement, and how you approach that. Sometimes if you're feeling that, maybe I'm getting a little pushback from the client, you don't have to push for the exclusive representation agreement right away. But you should have that conversation initially. When I'm working with a new client, I'm feeling them out, I'm qualifying them. And, after I qualify them, I let them know, I think I can help you. I believe I can help you achieve the goals that you're trying to achieve with your investment or with your lease or whatever we're helping the client with. At that point, I start off with saying, let me start with an initial survey and work with you on that. And if it seems like we're on the same page, I am going to expect you to sign an exclusive representation agreement that's going to protect me and have me on your side the entire time. Okay. Let them know up front that, part of the qualification process, I do this when I'm qualifying the client, that I'm going to expect an exclusive representation agreement. It may not be right now, because, obviously, especially if this person wasn't referred to you, and you're just talking to them, they don't know you, they don't know who you are, they don't know what you can do. So it's kind of like giving them a little bit of a taste of, here's my expertise, here's what I can do, here's the team behind me, here's what we can bring to the table. This is our value to you. And then once you have that, then you can go for the exclusive representation agreement. Now, exclusive representation agreements, how do they work? Because people always wonder about that, what's happening. Typically speaking, there's a clause in there that it's an exclusive representation and brokerage agreement. So make sure that you abide by the laws within your local communities. For instance, in California, if there's any kind of brokerage commission type agreement, you're going to want to have, or you're going to need to have, a agency representation or a agency disclosure signed ahead of time. Otherwise, that exclusive representation agreement is null and void. So make sure you get the paperwork done, but really what the exclusive representation agreement is saying is that this client is going to work with you on any deal during a set time frame for what they're looking for. Okay, it can be carved out, it can be customized. You can put it down. You can even put it down just for just one or two properties that they may have some interest in. But typically speaking, you're looking at a certain time frame, generally 3 to 6 months that you're going to work with them. And if they purchase or lease anything during that 3 to 6 months, they are agreeing that you are going to represent them. So they don't go around you. They don't try and cut a better deal with the listing agent, whatever the case may be, whatever they may be thinking. They will work with you. Now, what type of teeth do you have for that? Okay. Generally speaking, you're going to, in the exclusive representation agreement, it should also have a clause in there that if they don't use you and they end up purchasing a property or leasing a property, then they owe you a commission. If they do use you, then typically speaking, the landlord or the seller will pay the commission. There may be times when a landlord or seller may not pay a commission, and then your buyer would still, or tenant would still have to pay your commission. But that's relatively rare, and you talk to them ahead of time, and you can adjust pricing to accommodate that. Okay? So that's part of the exclusive representation agreement. The other thing you can do with the exclusive representation agreement is that anything that you show them, if they decide to move forward on leasing it or buying it after a certain set period, after the exclusive representation agreement has ended. So it could be a 6-month period, a 1-year period. I like to see a 1-year period because that really prevents people, most people don't want to wait a year to try and cut you out of a deal. So if they purchase or lease a property that you have shown them and brought that to them, then they owe you a commission if they don't use you. Okay, so it's not just during that time frame, but also for anything that you've shown them or brought to them, toured them with, that will protect you as well past the exclusive representation time frame. Okay? In fact, most commercial real estate leases and a lot of purchase and sale agreements will have a clause in there that indemnifies the seller or the landlord, and the buyer or tenant has to state that there are no other brokers that they owe a commission to or that are involved in this sale. Okay? So this is a way that the landlords protect themselves from, let's say you had a client, you showed a property, you toured it, and all of a sudden they decided, I have a brother that can help me out with this, and my brother's going to give me back part of the commission. All right? So if that happens, then you are actually still owed a commission if you have an exclusive representation agreement. If you don't, you're just hoping that they're not going to have, go around you. And generally speaking, most clients won't and don't. But also, if a client is unwilling to sign an exclusive representation agreement, for me, that's typically a red flag. After you've been able to show them. I mean, if you come out hot out of the gates and all of a sudden you say, the very first words out of your mouth are, before I work with you, I need an exclusive representation agreement. That's not going to necessarily happen. You're going to get some pushback. So you're going to have to work with that just like you do any type of sales. Explain why. It's all about communication, education. Explain why they need that you need an exclusive representation agreement. And part of that is also that you're going to be working with them, that you want to be there. But also, one of the first questions, or 90% of the time when I submit an offer, is a lot of times I get questions back. Are they working with any other agents, or do you have anything like that? And no, I have an exclusive representation agreement. Okay, it shows that they're committed to you. It shows that they're serious, and it's not just for us, but it's also for the listing agent or the landlord or the seller. Also, what you have to look at and take into consideration is that, and this has happened before to me a long time ago in my early career, and I know other agents that this has happened to, where a buyer or a tenant that hasn't signed an exclusive representation agreement has multiple offers come in from different agents. I had a listing once that amazing listing, great property. We ended up having over 40 offers on that listing. Okay, we narrowed it down to about 10 that we really liked, but one of the 10 that we really liked had 3 offers written by 3 different agents on that same property. Now, we talked to them, explained it, and got a little bit of, because they were offering the most amount of money, and my seller wanted to go with that route, but we didn't know who was going to come up, ask for, a commission, because we got 3 offers in. Is it going to be the first person that submitted it? Is it going to be the second one, the third one? Who is really representing this client? Who should we be talking to? Can't talk to 3 different agents, right? So we actually opened up the communications and said, hey guys, and we talked to all the agents, and we talked to the seller, or the buyer rather, and said, guys, what's going on here? We got 3 offers. Who is representing you? And, the seller actually came back and signed some paperwork, or the buyer, I should say, came back and signed some paperwork saying that, yes, I did have these agents looking for properties for me. Yes, they were authorized. I just signed it, but, here's who I'm going to go with. And the other agents all agreed to it. And he actually paid the other 2 agents, not a full commission, but a commission for at least finding it and getting the offer out to them. And then the ultimate one that he had been really working with, or the one that submitted the offer first, ended up being his representing and getting a full commission on the buy side from us. So I have seen it happen. You don't want to be in that position. This is not, the last thing you want to do in your career is treat it like a foot race. Okay? Because we as agents, our value is not in finding the property. It's in negotiating the best potential deal for the client and making sure they get the property and close, escrow, or sign a lease on it. It's not finding a property, because in this day and age, 20 years ago, as short as 20 years ago, yes, there wasn't a CoStar. There wasn't a lot of databases on commercial properties, and a lot of the properties were held close to the vest. So you had to use a specific agent to get to that type of property. So, nowadays though, if you're just looking for properties, you can do that. A buyer or a tenant can see 80-90% of what's on the market through different databases that they have access to. Whether it's Crexi, LoopNet, most people don't have access to CoStar, but there's also a half dozen other databases that are out there, depending on what part of the country that you're in. So our value is not in finding that property. Our value is seeing the potential for that property, is seeing the value for the property for the client and how it fits in with their investment goals or their business goals for leasing, and then negotiating the best deal possible for them. Okay, so that's where you have to explain and communicate to the clients that this is why I expect to have an exclusive representation agreement, and this is why you should sign it. The other thing as well is I've also submitted an offer with the client, and whenever I submit an offer with the client on a purchase, I give the listing agent a little bio of the client, saying, this gentleman, he's in this particular case, he was 83-year-old gentleman out of New York in a 1031 exchange, had about $8 million cash to exchange into a couple properties. We're looking at it, and I gave the profile of the buyer, what they owned, what they had, and I submitted an offer. And the broker came back immediately and said, we have an offer from someone with the same profile, slightly, a different name, but the exact same profile. So immediately that broker was, what's going on here? Who is this person? Are they just submitting offers willy-nilly, so to speak? And are they serious or not? Am I actually representing them, or am I just throwing out an LOI on their behalf? What's going on? I immediately got on the phone with the client, and surprisingly, there was actually another buyer with almost the exact same profile out there. They weren't the same people. Very odd that you'd have that, but that does happen. Okay. So that's why we do that. I've had agents in my office where a buyer has called in, they're working with them, and then all of a sudden, I don't know why, but they call and they call the office again and talk to another agent and tell them what they're looking for. And now you have two agents, even in the same office, looking for the same thing. We found out about it because, we have office meetings and we have a very open office and we talk about our wants and needs. And with that communication that we have within the office, we were able to determine that, hey, you guys are working with the exact same client that you picked up a day apart. The agents had a quick conversation with them and said, we're not going to work with you unless you sign an exclusive representation agreement, but I'll tell you what, we will work both with you. And you're going to have two of us. So it worked out. He actually ended up signing it, and he didn't realize that that's a no-no. And a lot of people don't really understand that. A lot of people don't understand that if you're working with multiple agents, that you're not, that it doesn't show how serious you are to the other side. Okay. So when it comes to that, what you want to do, again, it's all about the communication. So, when I do talk to the clients, I say, if you're hiring me just to find properties, I'm not the right agent for you. Here's my value and here's where I'm at, and this is why I expect an exclusive representation agreement. Otherwise, look for the properties yourself and hire an attorney, to do your work. You don't need an agent if you think that that's all we do. So really understanding the value of what you do is where all this comes up. And once you do realize that you're bringing a lot of value as a real estate agent or a commercial agent to the client, that's where you can also then start asking straight-faced, without any fear of someone coming back and saying, I'm not going to sign an exclusive representation agreement. You can go out and ask for that exclusive representation agreement. Okay? But you have to get to that point as a younger agent. You have to understand the value that you can create to be able to do that. And if you're a brand new agent, I understand. You may not feel that you have that value, but you have a team behind you. Okay? And that team brings value. So that's why you want to make sure that when you're working with someone, that they're as committed to you as you are committed to them. Okay? So ultimately, one of the things, protect your work. Protect what you're doing. Show your value. Make sure that you're protected so that you get paid for the work that you do. Okay? Questions? Anyone? Travis?
No questions.
Okay. All right. Any experiences? Yes.
Actually, a quick question. How, I guess for the newer agents, how would you ensure, or how do you know that you're getting 100% commitment from the client, besides the tenant agreement? I guess.
Good question. A lot of that is all the way throughout the process of working with the client. Part of the qualifying the client is getting the information from them. How much information are they sharing with you? How responsive are they? You should be, just because you have a conversation, initial conversation, doesn't mean that they're tied to you or that they're going to be working with you or that they're committed or that they're working. You should also then start really taking a look at their responses. When you send properties out, are they asking questions? Are they dark? Are they blank? Are they, responsive? When it comes to offers, how you work it. You're qualifying the client all the way through. The qualification of the client is not just the first conversation. It's continuing all the way through until you close the escrow. Okay? You're going to want to make sure that they are committed in that sense to you by the responses that they make. How are they responding? Are they responding quickly? Do they take a week to respond? That's motivation though. But also, that doesn't mean they're not necessarily working with you or that they're not committed to you. It's just that they may not be ready to buy or lease at this time yet.